My fiancé's friends attacked me and called me unstable. Now, their friendship ended up in prison. I'm 28 and I manage a sports bar. Not the most glamorous career according to some, but I loved my life. Then the last 10 months happened, and I'm still struggling to process it all. Let me start from the beginning. I met Erica 4 years ago when she came in with some mutual friends. She was beautiful, ambitious, and worked as a real estate agent. We clicked immediately. Erica had this tight-knit group of 5 friends from high school, all successful professionals. 2 lawyers, a doctor, a finance executive, and a marketing director. At first, I thought their bond was admirable. They'd have weekly brunches, take annual trips together, and were always there for each other. Looking back, I should have seen the red flags in how they operated like a closed cult rather than a friend group. After a year of dating, we moved in together. The apartment was in my name since I had better credit and a longer rental history in the building. Everything seemed perfect. She was killing it in real estate, I was advancing in my career, and our families got along great. Last December, I proposed during a weekend trip to the mountains. She said yes, and we started planning an October wedding. That's when things began to shift. Her friend group became increasingly controlling of our wedding plans. They'd show up uninvited to vendor meetings, insisting on being involved in every decision. They made snide comments about how I wasn't in their professional league because I worked in the service industry. But I brushed it off, wanting to keep the peace for Erica's sake. Then came the bombshell. In mid-April, one of my regular customers at the bar, a detective with the local PD, pulled me aside. He had surveillance photos from an unrelated investigation that happened to capture my fiancée entering and leaving an upscale hotel with her ex-boyfriend, Eric, multiple times over 2 months. Eric was now a corporate lawyer, and apparently their paths had crossed at a real estate networking event in February. When I confronted Erica that evening, she went through the typical stages: denial, deflection, and finally, when I mentioned the photos, breakdown, and confession. She admitted to the 2-month affair but claimed it was just physical and begged me not to cancel the wedding. Her parents had already paid most deposits, and her friends had booked expensive flights and accommodations. I told her the wedding was off and gave her 30 days to move out, as per our state's tenant laws, even though she wasn't on the lease. That's when everything went to hell. Within an hour of our conversation, all 5 of her friends showed up at our apartment. What I didn't know then was that Erica had been building a false narrative for months. She'd been documenting every minor disagreement we had, twisting them into evidence of emotional abuse. She'd even started secretly recording our conversations, carefully editing them to make me sound controlling and aggressive. Her friends started verbally attacking me, calling me abusive and controlling. One of them, Sarah, the marketing director, actually tried to play mediator. She kept saying things like, "We know you're struggling with some mental health issues and we want to help." It was surreal. They were gaslighting me in my own home, trying to make me question my own sanity. I later found out that Erica had shown them carefully edited video clips from our home security camera, making it look like I had violent outbursts. She'd even gone as far as faking medical records, suggesting I had untreated bipolar disorder. The whole thing had been orchestrated to paint me as unstable and dangerous. I remained calm and asked them to leave my property, stating I would call the police if they didn't. Instead of leaving, they started destroying things in my apartment. One of them grabbed a framed photo of my late grandmother and smashed it. That's when I called 911. 3 of them, the 2 lawyers and the finance executive, completely lost it. One grabbed a kitchen knife from the counter, another tried to restrain me, and the third began punching me repeatedly. Even as this was happening, Sarah kept trying to talk me down, saying things like, "See, this is what happens when you don't take your medication." It was a bizarre attempt to create a narrative that I had instigated the violence. My detective friend had apparently anticipated trouble after showing me the photos and was already en route when I called 911. The police arrived just as one of them was attempting to stab me. They had to use tasers on 2 of them who refused to comply with police orders. Even as they were being arrested, these women showed no remorse. They kept screaming about how I was ruining their lives and careers. My ex-fiancée stood there crying, begging me not to press charges, insisting her friends were just being protective because they were worried about my mental state. The immediate aftermath was intense. I spent 6 hours in the emergency room getting treatment for a deep laceration on my right arm requiring 12 stitches, multiple contusions, and facial bruising. The police documented everything. and a victim advocate from the DA's office met me at the hospital to explain my rights and the legal process ahead. The three main attackers spent the weekend in county jail before their arraignment. They were each charged with multiple felonies: assault with a deadly weapon, aggravated battery, and criminal threatening. The two who destroyed property but didn't participate in the physical assault were charged with criminal mischief, a misdemeanor in our state. At the arraignment, they showed up in designer suits with a team of high-powered attorneys, clearly expecting to walk. Instead, the judge set substantial bail, forcing them to surrender their passports and wear ankle monitors due to being flight risks. That's when the real harassment campaign began. Erica filed a retaliatory police report claiming I had been financially and emotionally abusive throughout our relationship. She began showing up at my workplace during peak hours, causing scenes and telling customers I was mentally unstable and off my medication that I had never been prescribed. She even brought fake prescription bottles with my name on them, trying to convince my employees that I had stopped taking antipsychotics. After the third incident, my employer's legal team helped me obtain a workplace protection order. Her lawyer boyfriend, believing himself untouchable, started sending threatening emails to me. He claimed he had friends in the DA's office who would make the charges disappear. Every threat was documented and forwarded to the DA's office and the State Bar Association. The social media smear campaign was particularly vicious. They posted heavily edited clips from my apartment's security footage, added captions about my mental health crisis, and even created fake text messages suggesting I had a history of violence. However, this backfired spectacularly when my attorney subpoenaed the complete security footage and their phone records. The turning point came when one of the two friends charged with criminal mischief cracked under pressure. She revealed the entire plot through her attorney, how Erica had orchestrated everything, from the fake mental health narrative to the planned confrontation. The group chat messages showed they had discussed various ways to provoke me into violence while recording it, hoping to justify the affair and gain sympathy. They had even researched cases where women claimed self-defense against mentally unstable partners, looking for ways to create a convincing scenario. The messages showed them planning to wait until after the wedding because Erica would get a better divorce settlement than just breaking up. The trial was a complete exposure of their scheme. The prosecution presented over 300 pages of text messages showing premeditation, security footage from multiple cameras, medical documentation, the knife with fingerprints and DNA evidence, and evidence of their subsequent harassment campaign. Their defense strategy collapsed when their own messages revealed them joking about the planned attack and discussing how to edit footage to support their narrative. The legal battle that followed was more brutal than I could have imagined. My attorney warned me it would get ugly, but nothing prepared me for the scorched earth tactics they employed. During discovery, we uncovered just how deep their conspiracy went. They had created an elaborate digital trail dating back months. Erica had been secretly recording our conversations using a hidden app on her phone, then carefully editing the audio to remove context and make me sound controlling. Her lawyer boyfriend had helped her doctor these recordings, even adding background sounds of things being thrown or broken to support their abuse narrative. Under cross-examination, Erica accidentally admitted to planning the confrontation weeks in advance and revealed that her lawyer boyfriend had helped her create the fake mental health documentation. The financial discovery was equally shocking. Bank records showed they had set up a legal fund months before the attack, with all 5 friends contributing to a pool of money intended for their defense. They had even consulted with a crisis management firm about how to handle the potential media fallout if their plan went wrong. The preliminary hearings were a circus. Their defense team, consisting of 8 high-powered attorneys from 3 different firms, tried every possible angle to get the charges dismissed. They filed motion after motion, trying to suppress the security footage, claiming it had been tampered with. When that failed, they argued that the group chat messages had been obtained illegally. The judge's patience wore thin after their 4th attempt to have evidence thrown out on technicalities. During one particularly heated hearing, their lead attorney suggested that my history of mental instability made me an unreliable witness. The judge shut that down immediately, demanding to see the medical records they kept referencing. When they couldn't produce legitimate documentation, he threatened to sanction their entire legal team for making false statements to the court. The civil proceedings ran parallel to the criminal case, creating a legal nightmare for them. My apartment complex's lawsuit detailed over $50,000 in property damage, including broken fixtures, damaged walls, and destroyed security equipment. The building's insurance company joined the suit, seeking additional damages for increased security costs and lost rental income from tenants who moved out after the incident. The three main attackers were found guilty on all counts and sentenced to 36 months in state prison with no possibility of parole for 24 months, plus 5 years of probation. The judge specifically cited their abuse of their professional status and the calculated nature of their plan. Erica took a plea deal and received 18 months in county jail with 6 months suspended, plus 3 years of probation. She's required to complete anger management courses and pay $45,000 in restitution. Her lawyer boyfriend was disbarred and faces criminal charges for fabricating evidence. The civil fallout continues. They're facing lawsuits from my apartment complex, their former employers, and various other parties. Their legal costs exceed $200,000, not including future civil judgments. Looking back, I'm still amazed at how their plan to destroy me ended up destroying them instead. Their careers, reputations, and futures were sacrificed on the altar of their own arrogance. They thought their professional status would protect them, that they could abuse the legal system because they understood it. Instead, that same system exposed their crimes and held them accountable. I've had people ask if I feel bad about how their lives were ruined. I don't. They made calculated decisions at every step, choosing to escalate rather than back down. Their professional success made their actions worse, not better. They knew exactly what they were doing and assumed they were too clever to face consequences. The experience has changed how I view success and character. All of their prestigious degrees and high-paying jobs couldn't mask their fundamental lack of ethics. Meanwhile, my mere service industry job taught me more about integrity and professionalism than their law degrees ever did. As the last appeals wind down and the civil suits settle, I'm finally starting to feel closure. The truth won out, not because I was powerful or well-connected, but because I stayed calm and trusted the system they tried to abuse. Their attempt to paint me as mentally unstable failed because I refused to give them the reaction they wanted. These days, I focus on moving forward. The promotion to regional manager came with new challenges and opportunities. My trauma counseling has helped me process the betrayal and violence. I'm even starting to date again, though much more cautiously. For anyone else facing similar situations, remember that the truth doesn't need elaborate schemes or manufactured evidence. Document everything, trust the legal process, and don't let anyone convince you that protecting yourself makes you the villain. Sometimes the best revenge is simply letting justice take its course.